Okay, sorry. I just wanted to test. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, you can start anytime.
Oh, no. I just wanted to make sure it works.
Yeah. Hi, Leanne.
I'm not gonna, I have another appointment, so I'm actually gonna go give blood, so I can't stay on that long, so I might just hop off.
Thank you. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you for doing that.
And Leanne, BWA so we can get a credit.
I'm sorry? Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Really?
For us to get credit is ABWA when you give credit.
Okay, I'll tell them.
Oh,
Thank you.
I did not know that.
me too.
Yeah, according to the local here in Hawaii, that when you want to give credit to your organization for donating, as you are saving 3 lives, for giving 1 hour of your time, and it's not just for people who went to an accident or blood transfusion or medical surgery, but those who have on chemotherapy. This pandemic that we are in right now with the COVID, they need blood. And the man has asked us if we could transfer some bloods to them because of what had happened in California area. So there's a shortage of blood. And thank you so much, Leanne.
Oh, it's good to know, Anna. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Brittany, you want to start? I think there might be a couple more people coming on, but I'll just add them in when they hop on.
Okay, sure. So it's our blood bank, yes? Gonna be a little late.
Yeah, I'm
You
not
could
sure if
start
he's
first.
going to come on or Anna can do it later.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. All right. So back to showing my screen. Okay. Okay, so I guess since there's one kind of new face, I'm just going to give a brief introduction. So my name is Brittany Nagasawa, and I'm a certified financial planner and financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. And I am a member of this wonderful ABWA chapter, and I've also been in the investment industry for over 7 years, and I'm in the business of making money, so making you money. So today I'm going to try to provide you with some retirement planning tips, as it's never too late or too early to plan for retirement. So, retirement planning is a wide topic with lots of details, and of course, everyone's journey is completely different. So I'm going to try to address some of the basics, and if that prompts, your thoughts or your specific questions, I'd be happy to see if I can answer your specific question and help you offline. But before anyone could give you specific actionable advice, they would need to know the details of your financial situation. So that's my disclaimer for today, and now we can begin our discussion. So there's a Japanese saying that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is today. And so is that with retirement planning. And so, what does it mean to retire? And in the extreme, it means either choosing or being forced due to medical or other reasons to stop working entirely. And so let's start with that course of action. So typically we see 2 ways that people approach retirement. The first is done at retirement, and then you add up all your available resources, like all your assets and your Social Security income, apply a sustainable withdrawal rate, and then constrain spending to the supportable level. So clearly this is not the approved solution, and you may find yourself eating cat food along the way too. So let's try to avoid that method. And so the second method is done well in advance. And of course, you start by trying to estimate your desired retirement age, your level of retirement income required to support your comfortable lifestyle. And then you take action on those, and then you take action to achieve those goals. And as you know, that requires some form of planning. But I will warn you that achieving, your desired goal of lifelong retirement income usually means accepting a measure of delayed gratification. And of course, this is something that I'm constantly reminding my boyfriend of every single time he is itching to get a new car. So delayed gratification. So usually when we talk to clients about a comfortable and worry-free retirement, we look to establish reliable income streams to support the desired lifestyle. And these lifestyles include your fixed expenses, including your mortgage or your utilities. Then of course you have your variable expenses. And that includes, maybe like your medical expenses that increases with aging needs, the occasional home maintenance, such as a broken AC that you need to fix. And of course, the last one is your discretionary expenses. And that's, traveling, dining out, and all the fun stuff. And all of those three should be addressed when you're trying to get a good estimate of the required retirement income that you need. But of course, these income streams and assets don't materialize out of thin air. And to ensure you have enough to support the comfortable lifestyle will require, as I mentioned, a measure of planning and disciplined savings. And in the end, most of the rest of society does not care whether you spend your years comfortably or in poverty. So it really is up to you. All right. So, once you stop working in retirement, you will have to replace your working income to continue to support the day-to-day expenses. And so a general rule of thumb is that you'll need about 75 to 80% of your current income to maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. And the reason for the 75 to 80% is that, households may shift to a lower tax bracket retirement. You might have less expenditures, such as no longer paying for parking downtown. And of course, you're no longer saving into your retirement account. And so just to illustrate this, let's hypothetically take a couple who makes $150,000 in their working years. And then when they retire, let's say that they need about 75%, to support their current lifestyle. So that's slightly more than $112,000. So, as you can see, or if you look at like the living expenses, that's how much that they need. But their Social Security benefit covers 25% of their spending. And so where does the rest of the $84,000 come from? Well, for this hypothetical couple, it's coming from their savings and their retirement accounts. And of course, this is just for their first year of retirement. And so, we can see that we can't rely on Social Security to pay for your retirement, as it covers on average anywhere from like 16 to 40% of your typical spending. So let's go back to, what's going to replace your working income to take care of the day-to-day expenses. So here we can see on the screen, this is going to be our retirement income building blocks. So we start with Social Security at the bottom, because that's a great foundation of your retirement income. But as we covered, it's usually not enough to support the comfortable and worry-free retirement. The next supporting block is other income. So some people have earned pensions, based on their employment. Other income may also include rental income that you have from other properties that you own, or maybe income streams from an annuity. However, if you don't have the other income, the majority of your support in retirement is going to come from your savings and withdrawals from your assets. And so the next source, the next block up, is your retirement assets, such as your 401k plans, your 403b plans, traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, and the such. And then lastly, we have the last block, which is your non-retirement assets, which we call taxable assets, and that includes your cash and bank accounts, as well as your non-retirement investment accounts. And so now that we briefly covered the supporting blocks of retirement, we can go over some actionable items that you can take today to help you prepare for retirement. All right, so here are some general retirement planning considerations and tips. So first things first, match to the max of your 401k. Max to the match of your 401k. So if your employer offers a retirement plan and offers an employer match, max your contributions to the employer match. Of course, this means also knowing your employer benefits, and if you don't know, you can always check with HR. But for example, some employers may offer a match of 100% of your contributions up to 4% max. So dollar for dollar, your employer matches up to a 4% ceiling. So in this case, you would want to contribute at least 4%. And the reason I listed it first is that it's free money into your retirement. So take advantage of your company's benefits. However, of course, if you can save more, the better. Tip number 2 is spend less than you make. If you can't pay for it at the end of the month, you can't afford it. And of course, this excludes a home purchase, but this exception does not apply to autos. Never carry credit card debt from month to month, and the sole exception is a zero interest temporary credit when you actually have the funds available to pay it off in full. And this tip number 2 is probably one of the most important ones. It's the whole delayed gratification conversation, where the way to have a comfortable worry-free retirement is step number 1 is saving. So when you spend less than you make, you could always have that excess to then save. And of course, you don't want to save if you have outstanding like credit card debts. You got to take care of that first. And moving on to tip number 3, you can't save enough. So we all have many goals beyond just retirement. And there are many buckets of money that all require our attention and savings. So first things first, you want to establish and maintain an emergency fund. This is usually about a comfortable spot is about 6 months of your typical monthly spending available in cash. But of course, everyone has their own comfort level for cash liquidity. But that is their first bucket that you want to make sure that you have filled up. And once your emergency fund is in check, then you can make use of the tax-deferred and tax-free growth opportunities that the government allows. And so what I'm talking about, of course, is your employer retirement plans, traditional IRAs, or Roth IRAs. Make maximum contributions to retirement plans, whenever possible. Once that's kind of taken care of, you also want to be mindful to save for your children's education in a 5 to 9 plan for tax-free growth. And of course, this is if you have young kids, and if you already took care of that, good for you. We can skip this step. And lastly, you want to add to your taxable investments. So this is your, again, your non-retirement investments. This bucket of money, it does have flexibility because it does not have the retirement rules around it. So, when you do have excess in your emergency fund, your first bucket of money in your bank accounts, when you have excess, put that money to work in an investment. And of course, can't stress enough, save, save, save. You really can't save enough. And so, when I say like you can't save enough, oftentimes people will say like, oh, do I have enough? And that really is a $1 million question. And there's so many factors that go into that equation that's tailored to you and your specific life and your specific retirement. But since it is a question that is often asked, I will show you a general benchmark. So general benchmark of how much savings, you should have, to date based on your age and household income. So let me pull that up. So here it is. So you start up with the blue bar at the top. So you find your household income level, and it continues in the first box, and then I do have a mouse, so you can start up here, find your household income. It also continues down here as well, and then you just go down to your age. So hypothetically, if we're looking at someone who, if your household makes about 90,000, and you're currently at age 50, then you go age 50, you just drag it across, and to date, you should have about 430,000 saved up to support a retirement lifestyle for someone who generally makes about that amount in your household. So again, general benchmark. Don't be held by these numbers, of course, but the whole question of do you have enough should definitely be explored with the help of a financial advisor. Okay. So let's see. Next, you want to invest your savings and take advantage of compound growth. So as I said, saving is the first step, but then you want to put your saved money to work and have it make more money for you. So invest it, invest it in your retirement accounts, invest your excess cash into an investment account. You don't want to miss out on the wonders of compound growth. So actually, let's see. So, I'll keep this very brief because I could go into so many different rabbit holes with this. But just briefly look at this little graph here. Ultimately, especially for the topic of retirement, as you save, you want to put your money to work, have it invested so that you can take advantage of time in the market. And as you see, if you look at all the lines except for the orange one, which is inflation, you just want to be invested. You want to be invested, stay invested. Every little bit of money that you add to your retirement fund and you have it invested and you let it ride, it'll exponentially compound growth and it'll all work for you the day that you do need it. And of course, you want to be sure that your portfolio allocation, your management of how much stocks versus bonds in your overall portfolio is, in line with your comfort level, while taking into account, your retirement goals and of course the current market conditions. So what I mean by that example is that, if you are, let's say 60 years old, you plan to work for 5 more years, did not panic during March this year when the market tanked like 36%. and you want to be a little bit more growth oriented, you may be comfortable with a 65% stocks to 35% bonds allocation. So that's what I mean by how much stocks to how much bonds that you have in your portfolio. And of course, you want to have a well-diversified portfolio. Diversified meaning having exposure to different exposure or different allocations to different areas. And even if you silo just, for example, stocks, just within that broad category of what we call stocks, you want to have some exposure to like the US large cap companies, all the big companies in the S&P 500. You also want to have like value companies, meaning companies that have strong balance sheets and then pay dividends. And of course, with the US dollar going down, you might want to have some international companies in your portfolio. So that's what I mean by allocation, just siloing that one broad category of stocks. So of course, have a good diversified mix, and that's to help you weather the changing markets every year, and ultimately to grow your money in the long term. All right. So tip number 5, have a tax smart strategy. Not paying taxes is even better than making money. So let's talk about this very lightly, but you can take advantage or there's tax efficient ways to invest your non-retirement and your retirement investments. And of course, having a tax efficient way of investing it also means that there's a tax efficient way to make your withdrawals as well. You also may want to take advantage of annual tax loss harvesting. This is something you can do today. Do annual tax loss harvesting in your non-retirement account. And for some people in specific situations, maybe like donating highly appreciated securities rather than cash, might be good for your tax situation. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that tax management is integrated and needed in your investment strategy now and also in retirement. Number 6 is that if you're thinking about retiring before Medicare eligibility at age 65, have a plan for medical coverage. It can be expensive, so it's just one of the considerations that you want to think of before you jump the gun and retire before 65. Number 7 is have a Social Security maximization plan. So here's a tip for you. You want to check your earnings report. So when you get like your Social Security statements, it shows like every year and how much you made. It actually happens more often than you think, where the IRS reports 0 earnings for a year that you clearly worked. So the IRS does make mistakes, and I've seen it before. So it's good that when you do get your Social Security statements, just do a quick check and ensure that, if you worked all those years, that it's all accounted for. A pro tip is that you can run a Social Security analysis, with your financial advisor to determine, when's an ideal time for you to claim Social Security benefits. Factors for maximizing your Social Security benefits, may include factors such as when you plan to retire, your current asset level, or I guess anticipated asset level, of course, your anticipated longevity. But there are other considerations, such as there's spousal benefits, there's survival or widowed benefits, as well as divorce benefits. So, for example, well, actually, I guess I'll start by saying that since all of us are women on this call, so like statistically, women do have longevity on our side. So, if it's most likely that you want to wait to turn on Social Security, if you can, and you may also have the option to turn on spousal or widow benefits while you're waiting to turn your Social Security on. there's other considerations like widow benefits can be turned on as early as age 60, even though you are still working. If you're divorced and was married for at least 10 years, you have the option to claim half of your ex's social security benefits if it's higher than yours. So if your ex was a high earner, that may work for you. But ultimately, I'm just trying to say that Social Security does not tell you what your options are. So you actually have to discover it on your own and then inquire about it, figure out if it applies to you. And of course, if it fits in with your situation, because there is a way to maximize what you get from the government. All right, moving on, tip number 8, plan for the inevitable. The Grim Reaper is undefeated, so we will all die one day. So with that being said, have a will or trust. Do what you can today to double check, or do what you can today to make sure that your money is going to who you intended to. What you can do today, so what you can do today is double check your beneficiaries on all your financial accounts. So your retirement accounts, your investment accounts, your bank accounts, and life insurance contracts, they all can have designated beneficiaries. So this is the immediate and free way to designate beneficiaries. And especially if you are divorced, you do want to double check, you don't want your ex to still be listed on assets that you haven't thought about in a while, such as life insurance. So be deliberate about where your hard-earned monies go, even after you're gone. So almost there, guys. So tip number 10, start today. As I started off with this conversation, it's never too late. It's never too early. Start today. There's all these little things that you can take action on that will have a big effect, the day that you do retire. And then number 10, don't be afraid to ask for help. I know as women, our natural instincts is to handle and figure out everything ourselves. But, you don't have to, seek advice. The good news is that you don't have to go at it alone. If you work with a financial advisor, ask them to pull all these components together for you in a tailored financial plan specific to you. And of course, everything that was covered today is conversational financial planning. Please know that there's extreme complexities in the planning and management process of retirement. So, it can seek professional advice. And also don't forget to integrate your retirement plan with your tax professionals as well as your estate planning attorneys. So I know I just talked your ears off, but at this time, does anyone have any questions or comments?
Hey, Britt,
Yeah.
one of the other things too is that we forget because time goes really quick is like you could have written your trust or whatever, like all of a sudden it's like 3-5 years later. So, as far as the money and everything that we're gonna do, even if we start today, should we review every year all of our stuff? Like, let's say we didn't have a financial planner just yet. So we list everything down. So we should be reviewing everything, like our life insurance, making sure it's applicable, the beneficiaries and all that stuff.
Well, a good thing to check on, I wouldn't necessarily say annually, but like I mentioned, designated beneficiaries is something that you can do like immediately. You could do it today. You would call or inquire with anyone that handles any of your financial accounts. Just see who the beneficiary is. Oftentimes people don't make too many changes. However, like you said, time flies. And sometimes, it's just something you don't think about all the time. So sometimes like parents or people might forget and they're like, oh, that their beneficiaries don't include child number 3. It only it takes into account, spouse and child number 1 and 2, because time flies and then you often forget. But like I said, beneficiaries is a quick way to just kind of double check, you know, because each contract has its own contract on where your money goes, you know, after you pass. But then your wills and trusts, you know, it costs money
Mm-hmm.
to do, you know, to draft one, to have an attorney review it. So, you know, it's something you don't want to do too often because, you know, unless some big changes happen in your life, you know, of course, like having more children or being divorced or getting married, all these types of things. But if it, I would wait till like big triggers in life happen, or if you just like know that you haven't reviewed your wills or trusts in the past like 20 years, and a lot has changed. You know, new assets have arrived, and you know, it depends on the wording within your trust or will too. Sometimes people are very specific. Some people have like a blanket statement. So you know, it's a very customized document. So it depends how it was worded. If it does, you know, so it doesn't hurt to review it, right?
Mm-hmm.
See what the verbiage is and see if it needs an update. But something to think about because it's not something that you consciously think about.
Mm-hmm. Good, thanks.
Yeah, one of my friends said that that used to do trusts. She recommended like looking at your trust, like as you mentioned, when life events happen, or maybe like every 5 years or so, to kind of look at your trusts and updating if need to your will, you know, things like that. So, but this is really helpful. Thank you. I just started too late in life.
No, and like I said, it's not too late. And sometimes, you know, and we all know this, you know, like when certain things happen, you know, retirement really is a milestone. And there's so many things that you have to think about. And you just don't want it all to, you know, you're just like, I gotta think of like X, 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 like, you know, as I'm transitioning. So sometimes like doing some of these things proactively will kind of alleviate some of those worries. And of course, a lot of the tips I mentioned will better prepare you and also like put you in a better position at that moment in time too.
Yeah. So people like Kelsey should start saving now in their 20s, you know.
Yes, Kelsey.
Even a little, you know, it'll help.
Every little bit helps. Oh my goodness. And with all your years that you have left, Kelsey.
I know that's what I was just going to say because I have
Yeah.
a few years on you guys when that's exactly what I did in my 20s when I first started working. And, you know, some of these concepts were pretty new back then. And just to save in 401k, and then as you know, just keep contributing and contributing, and then as you move on to new employers, then you have all these other complicating factors about rolling over into a new employer program or just letting it ride. And then, you know, over the years, then you have all these individual accumulations that are just piecemeal, and now you have to make sense of it all, you know, because if you have all these different accounts and assets in various places, now you really want to tie it all together and make sure that you are doing the right thing for your retirement.
Right.
Not there yet, but we're getting closer.
Good for you. But yeah, just to touch on a few things you mentioned, I mean, you know, obviously saving, if your employer offers a retirement plan, you know, that's great. Take advantage of it. It really is the cheapest way to invest. And, you know, but when you do invest in or when you participate in your retirement plans, you know, as Robin kind of mentioned, you know, each employer plan has its own set of rules. So when you change employers and roll things over, it's like, there's a new set of rules, and no one. Another reason why employer plans are also very cheap is that, you know, oftentimes, I'm not saying always, but oftentimes, you know, there's not as much help. You know, it's like a lot self-directed, right? So you, the know, employee or the participant has to be like, what do I invest in? How much should I defer? You know, how does this all tie into the whole picture? Like, it's all kind of left up to you to figure it out. So because you don't really have, you know, maybe a professional like working with you side by side, you know, that's why it's like a cheap way to invest. But of course, you know, it's a great way to take advantage of. And But yeah, you just have to figure out all those complexities yourself and figure it out. And also to your point too, you know, when you end up having like so many different accounts, and you know, honestly, even if your investments are centralized in one place, um, it really is hard. I shouldn't say hard. I know everyone experiences this where, you know, it's like, okay, I know how much generally, you know, it's in my 401k. I kind of know how much is in my bank account, kind of know how much is in, you know, my spouse's 401k-ish. You know, we also have these investment accounts. And then, you know, the list kind of just keeps going on. But then you don't really think about everything as like one whole pie, you know, for you.
Mhm.
And so, you know, as I mentioned or touched on briefly, like having a financial plan, all that essentially means is just tying. It's like an octopus. You know, you take all these different informations and then you like centralize it so that you can make sense of it. Um, and you know, you could try to do it yourself right now by just keeping track of things and centralizing it in one area. You know, it could be as simple as like an Excel spreadsheet. There's some like tools out there. Um, I know Mint used to be a thing. I don't know if it still is right now, where you can like aggregate all your assets into one centralized view. Honestly, if you already work with a financial advisor or you know have online access, right, to wherever your investments are, there's usually some form of like basic level of like aggregating information so that you can kind of see everything in like one area to be like, oh, that's my entire like picture piece of the pie to figure out, you know, is that going to work for me? Is that going to support me in retirement? Or, you know, whatever your financial goals are. But yes, that's a great comment, Robin.
This was great. Thank you,
Oh,
Brittany.
thank you. Sorry, I know I'm just like, oh, this is a bit much on a Saturday morning, but thank you guys for bearing with me.
Well, and you can't hear it too many times. I mean, so the more you hear these kind of comments and statements, and it just you need to hear it over and over and over again to really apply it and make sense of it.
Right, right. No, 100%. And like I said, there's just so many things to think about. You know, honestly, sometimes I feel like part of my job, besides managing my clients, you know, assets, is like I sometimes feel like I'm always nagging my clients about like all these like different things. Like, hey, don't forget, you know, like, you know, did you see your estate planning attorney yet? And they're like, oh no, you know, it's just like, but there's so many things to consider, and sometimes you need that little plug in your ear to remind you, right?
Well, and the other thing too, because we dragged our feet on this forever, and it's so important if you have children under the age of 18, is to put together a trust, not a will, but a trust that really protects those children. I mean, our kids, we've had ours for 10 years. Our kids were in their teens before we finally got around to meeting with the attorney, our financial planner had said, you've got to do this. You've got to, yeah. And we kept putting it off year after year after year and, hoping that nothing would happen. And fortunately nothing did, but it took us a long time. And that's really, that's very important for all of you who have children under the age of 18 to really protect them.
Oh, yeah. Good example is my ex-husband. He was a pilot. He was a fighter pilot with the Air National Guard. He worked at, the two local airlines here. And he suddenly passed away. Next month will be 7 years. And it was unbelievable that he did. Well, I think he had a will, but it still had my name on it. He didn't have a trust. So everything went into probate, and then his current wife tried to do everything herself. So me personally, I wasn't really involved in whatever was happening, but my two kids who were in their early 20s at the time of his passing, I believe they got screwed a little bit, when everything was said and done. But because she had control of mostly everything, they didn't, I mean, they had say, but not much, you know, and for them to contest anything would cost them money. So, you know, that was a good lesson, I think, for everybody involved. Like, have a trust, you know, at least, or at least have a will. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the laws are in Hawaii, but somebody said, "Oh, I think he had a will, but you were named in it, so that was null and void." And I'm just like, well, okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure he did, because when we were married, you know, because he had to have so much life insurance being a fighter pilot and everything like that. I remember seeing all that kind of documentation. So I don't think he ever changed it, like going on to almost 10 years after we were divorced. So, you know, that was a good lesson for everyone. You know, just have some kind of will or trust or anything. And like, you know, Brittany noted, to have your beneficiaries updated, because we don't really know what his true intentions were and who he was going to leave everything to. So, you know, that was a great lesson, although sad, but, you know, I mean, he passed away at 55, 50, how old was he? Yeah, like 50, late 50s, early 50s, mid 50s, late 50s. So it was totally unexpected.
That was a good point too, because sometimes when we don't update our things, and then the person who, let's say you have your living trust, the person who has to care for your items or things afterwards,
Mhm.
you don't want to leave them in, you know, sort of in the dark, like, I wonder what they were thinking or anything. You kind of want to make it easier, whether it's your children, whether it's your best friend. You don't want them to have to be the researcher of trying to find out what exactly were you thinking or where's your stuff and all this other stuff. So Brittany's correct too. Like, you got to list your stuff down. So to me, the next guy who is taking care of it, they won't have a headache.
And even, yeah, and even your trustees, right? It might change because
Right.
you might have had a falling out with your kids or your family or something, or, you know, your friends, or, and so who you had designated 10 years ago might have changed. So it's always good to, you know, kind of keep it updated, which reminds me I need to do mine. I haven't done it in years. So, you know,
Yeah.
so it's always a good reminder.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story, Tammy. And you know, kind of to like both Tammy and Denise's point too, like, well, one, you know, you never know, you know, when your time will come. Um, and honestly, like, sorry to sound really morbid, but you know, like even during this like pandemic, um, like just watching, you know, like my general like investment news, you know, all they talk about every day is, you know, like which are the hot stock picks, you know, economy, this and that. But there was a lot of conversations about, hey, everyone, like, update your beneficiaries' trust and wills, because it doesn't matter how old you are, you know, it doesn't, like, this pandemic can take a toll on anybody, and you just don't know. But in addition to that, you know, like I said, building on Denise and Tammy's stories, you know, like even me personally, like like in my personal family, as well as, you know, I see it with like clients too, where, you know, if things are not clear, you know, in the trust or the will, it leads to like fights within families. And it's just, you know, as the person passing, of course you don't want that, you know, that's the last thing you want, especially during such a rough time for everybody. But money really is a sensitive topic, and I was just like, honestly, looking at my own family situation, I was shocked. Like, people, you know, you just saw a different side of people.
Yeah, they get nasty.
Once money was involved, and it was just like, and now, like, to be quite honest, like, our families now kind of forever changed, you know, now that we saw certain sides of people. And, you know, then that wasn't what my grandma's intention was, you know, but it's just, you know, she just didn't update it. And, you know, everyone was just trying to interpret, you know, what we thought, you know, to Tammy's point, what we thought she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the funny thing about my ex-husband was, he had, I think that was his intention. He was planning to do all this because he had notes written and it was sitting on his desk, like, you know, insurance, trust, something, you know, he had all these things listed down, like his to-do list, and he never finished it. So I think he was in the process of updating everything, but he never got to finish it. So, you know, again, when you have the time or the money to do the will and the trust and everything, to just do it, because you, like you said, you never know. And especially during this COVID situation where it takes anybody, you know, it doesn't matter of your age. So it's another thing to think about.
But those are good points though, because like Brittany says, when it comes to what's going on, you don't find out until after the fact. And maybe a lot of side things that you never knew about, and all of a sudden all this comes out and people are like different personalities, and you're like, oh, this is really my brother or sister or my aunt or, you know, whomever. So if we make it clear, there is less fighting and stuff like that. Thanks, Britt. Thanks, Tam.
Brittany.
Well, thank you all. So if, you know, like I said, I really did cover high level or basic conversational financial planning. So, you know, I don't want to leave anyone in the dark. If you did have any questions, you know, like obviously no obligations. If you have a specific question, just reach out to me. And I'll leave it at that unless anyone has any other comments or questions.
Oh, thank you. Great information.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
all.
Britt. That was
Thank
great.
you, Brittany. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Robin. Good to
Anna,
see you.
are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you want to share a little bit about the blood bank?
Yes. Okay.
Um,
Let me see.
okay, there we go.
Okay, sorry, let me go in. Okay, so I'm gonna share you what Herman emailed me. And so just to let you guys know, there is a critical blood shortages due to a very low donor participation during the COVID-19, means that the blood centers face dire challenges. So each donation that you do, which is 1 hour of your time, your precious time, you save 3 lives. Please give someone that ultimate gift during these holidays, which is free. Plus you don't realize it, but your blood needs to flush out, your old blood, and so that your body can generate new blood. And that old blood of yours is giving life to someone. And that right now, there is a lack of donors that we are asking the mainland, sorry, I read it wrong earlier, but who have been affected by the fires and hurricanes and the pandemic. So there is right now for Hawaii, a low supply of type O, A, B blood type that is critical in need. Couple of times we had to advertise here in Hawaii that our entire blood supply was critically in need. So he had generated an account for us, American Businesswomen Association, Nakilo Hana o Wahine chapter. But for now, if you wanna, not too much people know about Nakilo Ohana. So ABWA is short and sweet, but I will advise him to add Nakilo Hana on there just to make sure that we get credit. But again, due to very low donor participation during this time, please save a life, save someone close to you who might need that for chemotherapy or their blood, because there's 3 types of things when you do full blood transfusion. But if you go to the mobile, there's mobiles all over the island on the weekends. And there is a area where you can self-register at BBB, Blood Bank Hawaii, bbh.org. And there you can self-register and schedule your time where your location is convenient to you. And so thank you for giving me this time to share what Herman has given me, because to me, it's you could be saving. Thank you.
Hey, quick question, Anna. So, I know that a lot of people are hesitant for the blood bank because they really don't know what the process is. So
Yeah,
some people might be scared of needles. They might be afraid of how does it feel, things like that. Could you give us like a quick
yeah.
summation of like how it is when you go in? Do you eat before you go? Something like that.
Correct. Because I'm anemic, so yes, I had to make sure that my iron was high because that's blood, right? So I
Mhm.
had to make sure, this is the area right here. This is where I want to share with you. When you do plan on giving blood, make sure that you eat a good meal the night before. But if you're like me, anemic, I'm taking iron pills during the week before I give and donate because I'm anemic, low on iron. So I take like 250 milligrams of iron, but you can get iron through eating kale, broccoli, but my body somehow is not, especially when I'm doing menstrual cycle. But blood centers, they ask that you do eat a good meal the night before, the morning, and then as well as eating afterwards. They even give you perks. Like I was telling, I had another one for giving blood. They gave me Jack in the Box, a $5 meal, a Taco Bell dollar meal. The other one was a pint of gelato from Via Gelato in Kamiki. So like this, yeah, sorry. So it was like, wow. I mean, they're trying to really pump it up by, you're not only saving life, but we're giving you freebies of meals just for your time in donating, because 30% of them are turned away. Volunteers have been turned away because, like me, you're anemic, or you just you might be travel. There is questions that you have to fill out, and donating blood is safe, but you do answer questions for transmissions of your blood for safety reasons for the person who is receiving your blood. So there is a process of donating. So 40% of them is turned away just because of their blood is, like how Tammy said, her blood is reject, and
I'm
she
banned
said
for life.
life. It's like, wait, I know it's a term, period. If you went to out of country, went to Africa or some place where there's high diseases rate, and they would say, did you go to Africa? Did you go out of Europe in the past 7 years? That kind of questions that you do fill out on the questionnaire. It is a long questionnaire that you have to fill out. So again, 40% of them is turned away, but donating your blood is safe. There is no known risk of transmission of COVID through the blood donation process or from blood transfusion. So, like what you said, Denise, to ease anyone's fear of donating, Herman was a great way of explaining his way, because he's a big guy. You guys saw him on our Christmas party, right? But I tell you, he's a teddy bear. He's very weak in injections of needles and all that. But because of what he felt of donating himself and what effect of that time in giving himself, he felt very grateful that he can do that for somebody else, because we have to generate blood and we have to release our old blood. So imagine if you have never donated blood, you have old blood and your body needs to generate that. Yeah, because self-generating is very needed in your own body, because we have immune in ourselves, and it just our body is beautiful, and it's nice to give your time in donating. But I'll have him come back, Herman, next year and do his part in giving the whole entourage of blood bank.
So,
Yeah.
and I have a question. If you're not in Hawaii, if you're on the mainland, I mean, can anybody here donate and designate that ABWA chapter as the, I guess, designee, a recipient for the blood, or is it just going to like Red Cross blood bank and without a specific designation? I know, because you can designate to an individual or to a hospital. Can we designate to specifically to your chapter?
You can. by talking.
Okay.
Yeah, talking to them. But before I remember, that question was, yeah, if you could designate it before you could. I'm not sure now, because again,
Oh,
the blood shelf life, and how many activity is going in and out. So that
right.
depends. Yes. So you need to check with your local blood bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're in what state?
California.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's big, girl. There's a lot of blood banks there, right? Compared to
Yeah, I mean they're everywhere. I mean, I used to donate all the time, but it's been years. But I have a hard time. They have a hard time finding my blood, so it's that's not something to just get finger sticks or tubes of blood. It takes forever. So to donate a pint, I'd be passed out by that time probably. But
you'll be surprised how fast it is. But yeah, the expectation your first time, you feel like, oh my God, this is taking, and you know, but
yeah,
once you go through it, it's fast.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and to give, finally to give, it feels real good that I
Yeah.
have impacted somebody's life
Mhm.
and seeing the next
Mhm.
day, which is very yeah,
Yeah.
very grateful. Thank you.
Well, that's awesome. Great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Giving blood
Okay.
is pretty easy.
So, Millikalikamaka, I'm gonna jump off.
Thanks, Robin. Merry
Thanks for
Christmas. Happy
joining
New
us,
Year.
Robin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invite. I'm glad I saw it and remembered. Put it in my. Thank you, Brittany. That was really excellent information. Appreciate that.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for joining, Robin.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Christmas.
Guys,
Bye.
thank you, Brittany.
That's good, Britt.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for asking me to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
going back to the blood bank, it's pretty easy to do. I mean, even if you're scared of needles, but unfortunately, like I mentioned, I can't give anymore. They banned me for life. So, but it does make a difference. One of my former coworkers, I think she's one of the top in the state of giving blood because she does go like every, I think it was 8 weeks you can donate.
6-8 weeks.
6 weeks. And then I think, I'm not sure if she was also giving the platelets.
Mm-hmm.
So
Important.
yeah, so she's like one of the top donors in blood bank history. So
Wow.
yeah,
Sure.
so I wanted to be like her, but oh well.
Maybe they'll change things, Pam. Like they'll say, okay, all you guys that
Yeah,
try.
and when I checked a few years ago, they said, yeah, unless testing procedures changed or their policy changes, then I pretty much was banned for life. I'm like, okay, you know, and I feel bad because I want to help, you know, donate blood because it's not costing me anything, but unfortunately, yeah.
I think too, when we have universal, right, Anna, universal blood too, that's really good. Like if we're O positive versus all the other ones that are really needed, right? Like A or B.
I have a question. Sorry to change the subject. For Patty, because I have a question. Here we're talking about, right, and trustee. For the property, the lien, the deed, do I need to remove my mom's name? Because right now it's under my mom and my dad. Do I need to remove my mom's name?
How did they hold title?
Yeah, on the title.
No, but did they hold it tenants by the entirety?
Oh, tenants of entirety. I know we did on that part, but my mom and my dad, they have trustee on theirs.
Okay, how long ago did they change it?
But that was from the beginning.
Okay, I gotta go look up how they held it, and because then if they had the TE protection, but I mean, you can leave it under a trust name because the trust lists what the roles are to be done, you know, so you don't have to change it. Your dad probably could take it and take the whole thing, but they gotta look at the whole estate planning as to how they did it. But nowadays they had changed it where if they had it as tenants by the entirety and they changed it into the trust, when they record the trust, if they record it, they can do joint trust now, because before they had separated it, but now they put it back as joint, but they want to keep that tenants by the entirety protection, which is like it's an entity itself, and then they put it into the trust. So it's just, you got to look at your trust and see how what they did.
Because if it's in a trust individually.
Yeah, because sometimes long time ago, the parents had two different trusts, because that's the way they did it before.
Yeah.
They took it out of the entirety, but only probably like 3 or 4 years ago, they changed it where you can keep that protection, but you can keep it in the trust. It's just a matter of what her trust says.
Yeah.
I know.
So you got to read her trust.
That's what I had to go through last year, is changing what things needs to be done, because now she because like what Brittany said, life expectancy of the woman living longer than so that was how it was written, but because now she passed away, now I gotta change how, and so that's why I'm just looking at how this, with my dad, so just thinking how to go about in doing this. But yeah.
So who were her trustees? Your dad, and then they have after your dad?
Yeah.
Or does it only have your dad?
Yeah, my dad.
That's all.
If your spouse passes, the other spouse gets the beneficiary. But
yeah, but did they also list in case the spouse passed away?
Us, yes, the children.
Then it went to it, so it does identify you guys.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I just want to check on that, the trustee, of how the deed shows that reflects as with the will.
The trust. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did Britt want to add?
I mean, you can, I don't know if this is part of the joint trust, because obviously I'm not a trust expert, but at least for like investments, you also want to make, so to build up on your comment, Anna Marie, I don't know if it matters, Patty, but then I don't know if your trust or your parents' trust is in a entity, like if it's reported by like your dad's social, or if it's like the trust has its own social. That also matters too in terms of like reporting, because if someone is deceased, because sometimes trusts are tied to your social security number, in terms of like reporting taxes and everything. And so if a deceased person is no longer here and you want the trust to still be enforced, the trust needs its own entity tax ID number.
Yes, yeah.
You gotta apply for it too.
That I'm familiar with, yes. Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Okay.
Thank you, Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's all. Any other questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, Brittany, for a good presentation.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
This was really good. Thank you.
I'm glad. Like I said, I was like, oh, it's kind of rough to talk about this on a Saturday, but thanks for coming, guys.
I know, less than a week for Christmas.
Yeah.
Ah.
And year end. Oh.
Yeah.
Because when you're thinking about the time during COVID too, you really think harder. Like, oh, what if it was me? Because you see your friends or whoever, then this is a good time to like rethink things. It's taught us a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Bye soon.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we're not seeing each other until then. Merry Christmas,
I
everybody.
know, and happy 2021.
Yes.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you.
Yay.
Bye.